Today on the Broadway Shuffle, Carson Beck to Texas Tech. What does that say about your quarterback room? That and much more next on the Broadway Shuffle. Okay. Wow. Did not think we'd be here today, but here we are. Portal news is still not over. A live reaction to the news that dropped earlier today, not solidified by any means, but still worth talking about. It was reported earlier that Carson Beck, Georgia's quarterback, who initially had entered the NFL draft, had entered the portal. And then soon after that news, Texas Tech was rumored to be one of the teams in on the Carson Beck sweepstakes. Zyler, Conrad, welcome to the show. I'm going to go right to you, Conrad, because you are, I mean, we all like Barron, but you love Barron Morton. You've been accused of even dating Barron Morton on this show. So I'm going to go to you. What is this initial thoughts on this and Carson Beck as a whole, but also what do you think this means for your quarterback room if this rumor is true?
There's so many different angles you can take with this, right? I mean, is this an indictment on Barron not being healthy and the doctor's not feeling good about his recovery? I don't know there. I'm not a doctor, nor am I going to pretend to be one. Do you really just allegedly feel great about Carson Beck and who he is as a quarterback? There's so many different ways you can look at this. I want to start with the fact that I just don't believe that Carson Beck is very good at all. I've never believed he's very good. I know last year he threw for 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. This year, 28 and 12, less yards this year, almost 4,000 last year and 2 years ago, I guess it was in 2023. Just not impressed with him, to be completely honest. I mean, no Lad McConkey, no Brock Bowers on that team this year. He struggled a lot. Seemed to throw the ball to the other team a good bit. And so not impressed there. If you are in the market for our starting quarterback, like Pete Thamel alluded to, I would think it'd be more you don't feel good about where Barron is health-wise, or maybe Barron's going to be out longer than you think. You just don't know. Zyler, do you have any thoughts, anything to add there, maybe on either Carson Beck or the state of your quarterback room here at Texas Tech?
Yeah, I would kind of echo your thoughts on Beck. I wouldn't necessarily describe these as a sweepstakes. I think this is more Russian roulette. You know, somebody's going to end up with Carson Beck on their roster, and I feel bad for that team.
Me too.
I don't want to be put in the position to defend and make it sound like I really think highly of Carson Beck. I think he's a fine quarterback, but I do also want to say I don't think this is real. My stance will be I think this is posturing from his agent trying to bid up the price from his alleged favorite destination, Miami. But, you know, if we're going to entertain the idea that Texas Tech was actually interested in Carson Beck, I think there's a couple things. One, I don't know why you would be interested in an injured starting quarterback to help you out with your injured starting quarterback. That doesn't really make sense from like a logistical standpoint. You would add another scholarship and expensive arm to your room that doesn't get to go through spring ball. I think if we were concerned about our quarterback room, we would have known that before the bowl game, and we would have added somebody during the normal portal window when guys still could have entered. So that makes me think this isn't true. But for the sake of conversation, if it was, you know, one, that would mean that Barron's injury is probably worse than what you originally thought, and that he's going to be out longer than what you thought. Because I think his estimated return is sometime in the beginning of summer. I think he's expected to miss most of spring ball, but you're expected to have him back for summer workouts. And then maybe you're just not as confident in Will if that's what you were going to do. But man, this just didn't pass the smell test to me. I think you look at this and it's like, it doesn't really seem like. This seems like agent posturing if I had to guess anything on what this was going to be.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I look at it in two ways, really, because it's a weird situation on Carson Beck's side. So you enter the draft originally, and then, you know, it's kind of like, oof, like people kind of make fun of him nationally because they're like, you're not ready for the NFL and you're coming off an elbow surgery. But then you enter the portal, and then if Pete Thamel is on McAfee and if Athlon Sports and if On3 and all these people are saying, here's the top 3 contenders, in my mind, someone would have had to reach out, whether it's the agent reaching out to Tech or whether it's Tech reaching out to Beck or vice versa. If the news dropped that he's entering the portal and then mere minutes after, it's like, here's Ohio State, Miami, and Texas Tech. The first two make a lot of sense. You know, but Texas Tech, on our perspective, it wouldn't make sense because we felt good about Barron and Will. But then, you know, so let's just play the game out. If this is from Texas Tech reaching out to Beck, or saying, hey, like, are you coming back in? Would you have any interest in, and maybe flirting with Carson Beck's team a little bit? Why would Texas Tech choose Beck over Barron? Like, what's the reasoning behind that?
I have no clue, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't know what game, I don't know what film they're watching. I mean, maybe we're just enamored with the SEC aura, and we think, oh, we can get an SEC quarterback that has played for arguably the best school in the SEC over the last 5 years. I couldn't tell you. I mean, I don't think Beck is he will play in the NFL. He will be on an NFL roster. But in terms of his cost, which would be, I mean, starting quarterback in the SEC,
Probably $1 million plus.
$1 million. Yeah. So that cost for Barron, I mean, Barron obviously played really well this year, could have played better in some spots, but Barron threw the same amount of touchdowns as he did and had 5 less interceptions. It protected the ball a lot better. Now Beck is a little bit more
with a worse
than Barron.
receiving cast.
Yeah, but with a worse, yeah. So it's just, I don't know what would make you interested in him, especially to add the cherry on top that he is injured as well. So I that's why I think I kind of buy this, that it's not even real, and I hope it's not real, because I would not be in a good place if it was.
The only thing that gives me
Conrad would be very sad, Zyler.
Very sad.
The thing that doesn't make sense to me logistically is like, well, so Beck's got his girlfriend out in Miami. Everybody knows the Cabernet girl, and he's been terrible since they've started dating. So, take that for what it's worth. But like, what is Georgia going to do at the quarterback position? Like, are they really going to run with Gunnar Stockton or whatever his name is? Like, surely that's not their plan at quarterback, right? Like,
yeah,
I don't think you build this. And this is the same thing you'd be thinking about Tech, just maybe on a smaller scale. You don't build a titan of a roster and then put in like a walk-on QB. I know he's not a walk-on, but you don't put in at the most important position a guy that not many other schools wanted. And you can make the same argument for Tech. If we're going to build this really, really nice roster and then not have a healthy quarterback, that seems like it was almost a gigantic waste of money. So that's where I think if this was going to be true, maybe we are worried about Barron being ready for the season. That would be the only angle.
Would it be Barron also? Would there also be a scenario where Barron is maybe, pushing? Maybe Barron's like, maybe I need a fresh start elsewhere. Is there anything on the angle of potentially Barron walking out of the program where you might think you need a 5th-year guy to come in and replace? Like, do you think there could be some rumors of, crap, we don't know if we're going to have Barron? Would there be any meat to that?
I don't think so. You just think about the leverage that you have in your last year. So in a way, I feel for Barron because, the leverage that you have over an institution, it's, he can't practice in the spring. So a team that's really quarterback needy, they're going to want you to be there in the spring getting ready. We already know what Barron can do. We feel confident about him. We've seen him in practice. Joey's been there. So we feel good about what we have. Another team doesn't have access to all that. So what kind of price could he command if he was to walk away? Because I think that would ultimately be what it's about, is a money thing.
And he's coming off a bum shoulder. I mean, it's not like,
exactly.
who's going to pay a premium for an above average Big 12 quarterback coming off shoulder surgery? I don't know how high that asking price would be.
Well, and those are all conversations we're not privy to. Like, we don't know. There's a lot of variables we don't know. We don't know, one, how long Barron's going to be out. Two, what is the cost to keep him on your roster? Quarterbacks are expensive, and I imagine as a starting Big 12 quarterback, Barron wants to be paid commensurate with what the going rate is for Big 12 quarterbacks, which I imagine is pretty substantial, probably the highest paid player on the roster. And I totally get that. That totally makes sense. But there's just a lot of variables we don't know. Is the interest with Beck real? Am I going to come out here and say that Pete Thamel is like, yeah, dude, you're full of crap, and agent's playing you? Like, Thamel's been in this game a long time. I'm not going to get out here and just say that, yeah, he's totally full of it. But
and that's
I don't know.
And Conrad, that's what's weird is like for Thamel to be on McAfee, a popular show, and to mention Texas Tech's name in a 30-second segment of like, here's Ohio State or Miami, but and Texas Tech's looking for a starting quarterback. Is that like that? Those guys just don't randomly say names very often if they don't have information,
unless it's a favor to an agent. That's the only that's the only time. But yeah, go ahead, Conrad.
I wonder who Carson Beck's agent is. What 25-year-old kid that just graduated from Georgia is his agent?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, just thinking about this too,
On it.
it's right. I don't think people just say stuff like I'm sure they do at points, but I don't think that's normal, right? Like I don't think that's an everyday type thing. I'm sure it happens, but the fact that he did mention Texas Tech's name, maybe it's simply him inferring that because Texas Tech has spent big this portal cycle, has been interested in talking to players and very aggressive, then they have to be interested in Carson
Mhm.
Beck because did start for the University of Georgia for 2 years, is in many eyes a good quarterback. I don't know, maybe that's why, but if there is some meat to the fact that Texas Tech is allegedly and rumored to be looking for a starting quarterback, I just have a lot of questions because I don't know. This is something I feel like we would have heard about on the message boards, behind closed doors, different things like that, that we just didn't hear about. So that's what kind of just caught me off guard by the whole news story, that piece of it, and then Carson Beck.
Okay, let me play this out, just hypothetically. Essentially, what this would be, if this was real, if this did happen, it would be essentially a Baron Morton for Carson Beck swap. It doesn't necessarily affect Will Hammond because assumption that Will Hammond is going to sit another year under Barron anyways, if Barron was her starting quarterback. Beck comes in for 1 year with a monster transfer portal class to come in and lead that charge as your quarterback. That's what this would be. This isn't a building block quarterback. It doesn't necessarily affect Will Hammond's future because we're projecting that he would sit under Barron for another year anyways, right? That would be overarching correct as what we're
Yep.
looking into going into next season.
Yep.
Then you get into, okay, why would you swap Barron for Beck? Is it money? Is it experience? Here's one thing I'll say, playing devil's advocate. I don't necessarily think Carson Beck is a better quarterback than Baron Morton. I don't necessarily think that he's a worse quarterback than Baron Morton. But one thing that I do think Carson Beck would add a lot of value in is this guy's played in SEC championships. He's played in the playoff. He's played in big games.
Mhm.
Has he necessarily played great in all of them? No. But the dude has played under a coach like Kirby Smart in an NFL style run program with NFL style players. That is a benefit in my mind. If I'm just looking at it holistically on what he's bringing into the locker room, I think that would benefit you if it's real and if this swap were to essentially happen. You could see a scenario where this benefits you in terms of the experience and what he brings to the table on that end. Having played, I mean, the dude went 14-1. He won an SEC championship. He's played in big games. He's not necessarily a nobody coming over. I mean, this guy was top 5 Heisman odds going into this season. So
Yeah.
I don't want to say that Carson Beck is worse than Baron Morton. I don't know if we can
Yeah.
correlate that projection.
Yeah.
But do I think that, I mean, do I think that it could be kind of interesting? Like, you guys are saying, no, Beck sucks. I'm kind of here like, that would be kind of, I mean, the immediate attention that would come with that, the hype around the portal class. I mean, people are going to rate him highly because this was a pro style quarterback that could have been drafted going into the year. I don't know. I think it's a lot of smoke still, but what I look for in a quarterback is leadership, playing in big games, not getting frazzled in late moments. And I mean, Carson Beck does have that experience and he's played with NFL dudes. I don't know if that really hurts your program if he were to somehow end up in Lubbock.
One other thing that, if you really want to parse out details, Pete Thamel, the thing that he said is, another program that is searching for a QB or a QB need. I forget the exact
quarterback. A starting
looking for a starting quarterback.
Yes.
That's the thing where maybe my eyebrows are raised quite a little bit. And here's where, this is just complete speculation. I have no inside sources on this. Like when I look at the good programs around the country that need a quarterback for next year, I look at Notre Dame. Riley Leonard's eligibility expires. I don't think they have anybody that they're super excited about after the kid flipped to Auburn. They're their big 5-star. So there's all those rumors about Quinn Ewers getting linked to Notre Dame because we know Texas will be starting Arch next year. If we are actually in the market for a starting quarterback, it would not, and I don't think that we are, it would not shock me to see you linked to Quinn Ewers again if they get blown out by Ohio State or something like that. Because I think Texas is ready to move on to Arch. That wouldn't shock me either. I don't think you should pursue Quinn. That would not be. I would love to. I would rather start Will Hammond than bring in Quinn Ewers. But don't be surprised if that gets floated around because where can he go now? Where are the spots for Quinn? Because all the rumors are he's going to the portal.
Z, look at Conrad's face as you mentioned that smile. His mouth started just creeping up, dude. When you winked, when you were, he can't stop smiling. Conrad, calm down over there, man. You can grab a towel.
No, Quinn Ewers is. I think Quinn is better than Beck, in my opinion, because I think Quinn has played at a higher level than Beck ever played. I think Quinn's 2023 regular season, most of that season, he played really, really well. That's when he was being talked about as a much higher draft pick than he is now. I'm just
enough
saying,
Longhorn love.
Yeah, the Longhorn love for Conrad.
It's not Longhorn love. It's Quinn love. I mean, I would have. Maybe not love. That's a strong word. Quinn appreciation. Do I think Quinn would actually be intriguing from a transfer standpoint more than Beck? Yeah, I do. I don't know, Zyler. I don't think you feel the same way.
Dude, Quinn's tape this year, like, I'm not a tape savant. I don't grind film. I'm not doing any of that. When you watch Quinn, when you're pairing him up with one of the best offensive lines, probably the best left tackle in the country in Kelvin Banks, you got all these stud receivers, you got a great play caller, and it's like he does not look good. Like, he has got almost in a great defense. He's not having to press. They don't play from behind. They had the running backs get hurt, but they still can run the ball. It's like he doesn't look good in that situation. Like,
okay, I have a question.
Are you just talking this year, or are you lumping in 2023 to that as well?
I'm taking, let's say, his most recent 13, 14 games.
Okay.
So yeah, this season.
Okay. I have a question. Start, bench, cut, Baron Morton, Quinn Ewers, and Carson Beck.
I'm going to cut Carson Beck for sure.
Okay.
You said, wait, it's Barron, Quinn, and Beck?
And Beck.
If they were all healthy?
If they're all healthy.
I think I'd
I'll start.
I'll tell you who it's not. It's not going to be Quinn.
Cut Beck.
Okay. It is not Quinn. Quinn is getting cut.
Okay, Quinn's cut for Zyler. Who are you starting, Z?
See, I think almost the same thing about Beck, though. I feel like Barron performed admirably. I think I'm starting Barron. I'm benching Beck and I'm cutting Quinn.
Conrad.
Well, okay, mine is if I get 2023 Quinn Ewers, I'm going to start 23 Quinn Ewers. If I don't,
you're not getting 23 Quinn Ewers.
Okay, if I'm getting then I'll start Barron. I will cut Beck and then I will bench Quinn.
Okay, so essentially what we're saying out of this whole argument is, let's say that Quinn transfers and you are in the market for a starting quarterback and Beck's linked and Quinn's linked. You guys would rather keep your 2025 starting quarterback, Baron Morton, both of you.
I think you know how I feel about what's going to happen in the starting quarterback room.
Zyler,
but the crazy thing is...
wait, sorry. Go ahead, or Conrad.
Go ahead.
I'll save
that.
Well,
the thing that is so difficult is, like, you know that banking on someone to recover from an injury is not always, it doesn't always work out the way you want it to. And I'm a big Barron believer. I think he's a very good quarterback.
Yeah.
But to sit there and say, yeah, we just went and got Lee Hunter, Cole Wisniewski, Reggie Virgil, all these guys, and we brought back a lot of our young talent. And even, you went and got, Will Zambrano and all these guys coming in.
Hunter Zambrano.
And then you're going to say, oh, yeah, we're going to bank on our quarterback who's hurt and may not be back till summer, if not later. That's got to be a hard sell for some people. I believe in Barron, so I think it'd work fine, but it is risky. It is very risky.
You're in a peculiar situation because your starting quarterback, who had a good years coming off an injury, your backup quarterback's a true freshman who's had minimal snaps, and now you've got potentially some fifth-year seniors entering a portal market where you've pretty much said, hey, we're going all in on 2025, but to make that train run well, you need an effective quarterback. So if they're saying we don't, if Texas Tech, maybe they're looking at the surgery and going, I don't know if Barron's ready. We don't necessarily know if Will's ready. Let's maybe add more talent. I know you added the kid from Wake Forest, but he's not seriously being considered as your starting quarterback for next year. So then if a Beck or if a Ewers is interested in Texas Tech, it might, behoove us to go and just play the field a little bit. If that's happening, who knows? But the report is the report. it was very shocking to see your name next to Miami and Ohio State. And I know you guys are saying that you feel like it's maybe all smoke. I think from my opinion, it's like, you're not just randomly linked there. Like if it's all, it could have been any school. Like why is it Texas Tech? Like why is it us that are linked with Miami and Ohio State? Somebody from our camp had to have conversations with Beck, in my opinion, for that to be linked where Thamel and all of these guys are saying Texas Tech and the need for a starting quarterback, and they're linked to Carson Beck. That's like almost too random to not have some validity to it, in my opinion.
Okay, so I guess I'll maybe push back a little bit there. If I'm an agent and I'm thinking about which programs have been spending a buttload of money in this portal cycle, how could I get my guy the biggest amount of money? It would be Texas Tech. Like that's who you would be linking to, like a program that's paying above. And the other thing, James Blanchard, the general manager for Texas Tech, he retweeted something from a recruiting guy, and it said, I would be very surprised if Ohio State and Texas Tech are seriously interested in Carson Beck. And I mean, this guy pretty much runs our talent acquisition. Now, I mean, he doesn't say they're not interested in a starting quarterback, but another really interesting thing that I saw, if we're just going to do the social media stuff, about 2 hours ago, so about this time, this report drops, Will Hammond just tweets a picture of himself playing in the North Texas game and says, wreck him. And it's just like, I mean, maybe that's coincidental. Maybe there's nothing to that.
Is it Will time? Is it officially Will time? And
who knows?
You don't know. I mean, that's the thing, is Barron's coming off surgery. Maybe he's saying, maybe we don't know what conversations are happening inside the football facility. But when rumors like this drop, one, it's a lot of fun. But two, it means that there are conversations circulating, whether that's, is Barron going to be healthy? Should we start Will? Do we trust Will? Do we need a quarterback? Is it Carson Beck? Or is Carson Beck's agent just playing a game to get $4 million from Miami instead of $2 million from, whatever other school he's talking about? Great. I will say, I don't necessarily think that a Carson Beck for Barron Morton swap is the worst thing for your school. I'm just not willing to go there yet. I like quarterbacks, dude, that have played in big games and don't get frazzled in key moments. And he has talent scouts interested in his ability. I know he had a down year and Georgia had a weird year offensively. I still think there's a lot of potential there. I think he'd fit well in a transfer heavy, portal class coming in. That this team needs leadership. They need stability when you've got all these new guys coming in. I don't know. I don't necessarily hate it as much.
Brennan makes a good point.
But I'm saying, if you don't have Barron Morton, because what I'm saying is what they would be saying is Barron's walking. I'm not necessarily saying that they're going to choose Beck over Barron and Beck, because if Beck comes, Barron's not in your quarterback room. I would think that would be the case. I think Barron would be gone if Carson Beck were to come to Lubbock.
What if you
and
could
he should
right?
What if you could somehow get a medical red shirt for Barron next year?
Then you lose Will.
Then you lose Will. Yeah.
And I think, without saying, necessarily who I would like to see your starting quarterback, and I think Zyler had flirted with it earlier. I just
Mitch Griffiths, baby.
Mitch
Get in
Griffiths
there.
is gonna be your 20. It's gonna be someone random. But no, I really don't want to lose Will Hammond. That's what I'll say.
Yeah.
Well, let's. Would you ever say that somehow, some way, Barron decides to leave? Whatever happens, I don't know. Let's just play this hypothetically out there, because we're having fun, and you're listening this far in. You should probably subscribe to the show if you have not already. So like this video, subscribe to the show.
Yeah, we do a terrible job promoting ourselves. So thank you.
We really have to get better at self-promoting. It's like we almost don't care.
Hey, we just need you guys to come back. We want to help get this content into the minds of as many people as possible, because we think we say intelligent things here sometimes. But if you had to play, if you had to go into next year and you're sitting here thinking about this whole situation, all the rumors that are happening, and you have a guy like Will Hammond, most freshmen who are going to be redshirt freshmen next year, you'd probably be a little bit scared about them walking into that role. How would you guys feel if it happened this way, and Will Hammond, Barron Morton's on your roster, you add a couple more backup quarterbacks, whatever happens, and come January 14th, 15th, 16th, by spring ball, that Will Hammond is going to be your guy? How would that make you guys feel?
Z, you go first.
Do you want my honest answer?
I want your honest answer. Honesty only here on the Broadway Shuffle.
You
So
go
okay,
first.
I this is just more. It's going to go more into my philosophy of like roster building and how do you build a competitive team year in and year out. We've seen a lot of other teams do that. We've built pretty good and competitive rosters, but generally speaking, transfer portal should be used to plug holes, not necessarily build a roster. Your foundation is high school recruiting, and I love seeing high school recruits beat out entrenched guys and do things like that. And so if Will Hammond is a stud and he's your starter next year, I mean, you have him for guaranteed 2 more seasons, if not 3. Like maybe he's not good enough to go to the NFL. And so you could have him for 4 years. You could have your Brock Purdy or, a guy like that maybe doesn't get to the NFL, but is good enough to win you a lot of really good college games. That's really awesome when your guys, like you saw Cam Dickey and Jacoby, like they were probably really pushing Cameron Valdez, and now you have them for 2 more years. That's super exciting. Now you want your seniors and your juniors to contribute because that's when you're big enough and you're mature enough. But I'd be really excited if Will came out there and earned the job. You forget, man, this coordinator, we do not know what Leftwich likes. Like Leftwich just may not vibe with Barron, and maybe Barron doesn't do the things well and he's not even going to get to evaluate that until we get into the summer at the earliest. Will's going to have all of this time developing chemistry with the receivers, learning the scheme live. Like he has a big advantage there. That doesn't put him as the front runner, but if you don't add anybody, he is building up advantages and he's going to build up reps that Barron doesn't have. And I love when my starting quarterback gets to go through spring ball. That's what I really enjoy.
And I think that's another big component to this is like Barron is going to be out for a significant period of time, right? And so if it's Will or if you're in Texas Tech's mind, if this is true, they're going, okay, we need a leader, a guy that's played meaningful snaps to be all in on 2025, to be around for spring ball, to be around in the summer. And if it's not Barron Morton, if we have to make this decision, then let's go make this decision. And if Cody Campbell and company are willing to spend a bunch of money to make sure you are in the best position to win the Big 12 in 2025, it seems like that's what they're willing to do. On the Will Hammond discussion, I'll say this. There is another quarterback that comes to mind for me. Let's go all the way back to 2006. There was a gentleman by the name, true sophomore, Graham Harrell. And I mean, if I remember correctly, that dude came in his sophomore year and did just fine. And I know it's a totally different year. I know it's a different world and different scenario, and it's the Leach era, and everyone's going to be like, oh, here we go, going back to Leach. But the reality is that dudes that were ready to play, and that dude turned out just fine for your program. There are guys that are sophomores that have played some snaps as a freshman that are like, even when I remember being 9-10 years old and be like, Graham as a freshman looked pretty good when we had minimal snaps, and here he is as a sophomore. I don't necessarily think that Will Hammond couldn't do something similar. I'm not saying he's going to be Graham Harrell for your program, but there have been times in Texas Tech's history where sophomore quarterbacks have come in and played very well for you, and that could be Will Hammond if it had to be. I don't know if the program is ready to go there yet, but we'll see. I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah.
Brennan, I think you make a great point. You think if you're going to spend all of this money on a portal class to build up every other position, and then you're going to go into the season with, a very unproven redshirt freshman quarterback or a guy that didn't get to practice all year, like, is that bad money spending? Like, should you have gone out and gotten a quarter? Like, that's the thing where, and there may be donors that are like, man, what's the plan here? Like, if we're going to spend all this money to get D tackles and cornerbacks and things like that, do we have an answer at quarterback? Yeah. And we don't know what those conversations are like. We're not going to speculate on what those conversations are, but you can understand why they may look at something like this.
The last thing you want, if you check every box, defensive line, offensive line, receiver, safety, cornerback, and we go into next year and there's a massive question mark at quarterback, that's a problem. And I think if these 100%. Rumors have any validity, that is why this is happening. Because if you've checked all those boxes to go win a championship and we are in 2025 going, oh man, if only we had a quarterback, and that's the one thing you didn't address, whether that's Barron's health or not getting a transfer portal or Will not being ready, that will be a huge problem if that's the reason you are not competitive in 2025.
Yep. Yeah. Totally agree.
All right. Well, hey, there we go, boys. There's our reaction to Carson Beck. Potentially, probably not, but still fun and worth talking about. coming to Texas Tech. We'll keep our eye on that situation and your quarterback situation as a whole, because this has just added another wrinkle and potential questions to what that room potentially will be heading into the spring. And we'll be here to cover it all. Tomorrow morning, we are dropping our first annual college award for the Broadway Shuffle, our football awards. Our first annual Broadway Shuffle football awards will be dropping tomorrow morning on YouTube. So make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel so you will not miss that episode and all of our content moving forward into the spring and summer. So for Zyler, for Conrad, I'm Brennan. We will see you guys next time on the Broadway Shuffle, and be on the lookout for more portal news because it seems like it is not ending yet. Everyone have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow on the Broadway Shuffle.